Hello, everybody. It's a wonderful Wednesday once again, and it's Don Anderson here with Sunny Danforth on a wonderful Wednesday. Good evening, everybody. Sunny, what say you?
Hey, I'll tell you, good evening, Dawn. It is smoky over here in Eastern Oregon. I have to say, we have got some raging wildfires, but we'll talk about that a little bit later.
Oh, yep. It's clear and beautiful here. I mean, the weather's been sensational over here. So we're thankful for it, and we'll take it while we got it, right? Because we know it won't
Yes,
last forever. All
yeah.
right. So, of course, the media is providing us with a surfeit of things to talk about. And I thought I would begin with a quick little blurb on history because history is amazing on history. I think it was Mark Twain as a history doesn't repeat itself, but it definitely rhymes. And I think you'd all find this as a kind of a fun launching point given this assassination attempt that just happened with Donald Trump. So there was a software engineer who came up with this saying. It's called Hanlon's razor, named after the engineer's last name was Hanlon. And Hanlon's razor essentially says this: never attribute to malice that which is adequately explained by stupidity. Right. So hold that in mind as I walk you through a few of these historical events. So the first thing I want to do, if I can get this to work for myself, is I'm just going to see if I can't cut and paste this and make it work into the chat. Hey, I think it's there. So what you're looking at is an article about a historic event that involved the assassination that launched us into World War One, and that was the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand in 1914 by a 19-year-old named Gavrilo Princip. Amazing how a kid this young could pull off this assassination. It wasn't an attempt; it was successful. But here was the insanity of that. Just a short version. He goes into a Muslim country. He drives a convertible on a Muslim holiday in a country where they hate you. The route they're driving is publicized 2 or 3 months in advance. They drive the route. 4 or 5 assassins threw bombs at the car. They injured some of the people, but nobody got killed or anything on the way in. They arrive at the event. He does the talk. They get back in the car. They drive back the same route. The car gets stuck. He attempts to put it in reverse, and it just happens to stop 5 feet in front of one of the assassins who happened to be at the coffee shop. Saw him, walked up the car, and shot the Archduke and his wife. And that is how we got World War One, World War II, the Cold War, communism, Soviet Union, East Germany, all of that from one event. Unbelievable, right? And the Secret Service for that country, Austria-Hungary, had been notified that there was an outfit called the Black Hand. It was a terrorist outfit that had already murdered several people in that country leading up to this. And yet it happened anyway. So if you think we're living in crazy times now, that's just one example of that sort of thing. A couple other ones I think that are really interesting here. Vice President Nixon went to Venezuela in 1958. The country was in the middle of a revolution and almost got killed in his car. The only reason him and Pat Nixon survived was they weren't in a convertible. And of course, 3 or 4 years later, 5 years after that, Nixon Kennedy, JFK, gets assassinated in what? A convertible driving through Dallas. It's crazy. RFK, you got a Secret Service. He goes to the Ambassador Hotel in Los Angeles, walks through a crowd, has no Secret Service. Football player Rosie Greer was his protection, not a professional guard. NFL lineman Rosie Greer, and he gets shot and gets assassinated. It's just amazing. You go down the list. Lincoln didn't have a Secret Service then. He had one guy whose job was to guard the door to Ford's Theater, to the booth where he was watching the play. The guard decides he wants to get a better view because he couldn't see. So he walks down the hall to watch the play. John Wilkes Booth walks in and shoots President Lincoln. You can hardly believe this stuff. Garfield, same thing. He's in Baltimore, goes to the train station. Todd Lincoln, talk about coincidence, 15 years after the Lincoln assassination, Abraham Lincoln's son is with him, as well as Garfield's 2 other sons. No security detail. They go to the Baltimore train station. Guy walks up, assassinates Garfield. And so the list goes on. So remember Hanlon's razor, never attribute to that which is adequately explained by stupidity, right? It may not be malice. It might just be stupidity. And you got to wonder, though, given what we just watched with this assassination attempt on Trump, it's pretty amazing. How does that question? How does a 20-year-old get within 150 yards of the president? It's
That's your
just amazing.
$1 million question right there. And I don't think it all just happened by himself. I just don't. There's too much, quite frankly. And clearly you had, thankfully the head of the Secret Service, she resigned. But I had the opportunity I took the time, I should say, to watch on C-SPAN the congressional hearing with the Pennsylvania police chief, the head of the Pennsylvania police, and another fellow. I don't remember what his title was. And you know what? By golly, they had things to say.
Wow.
They were not trying to hide anything. And
Mhm.
they talked a lot about the timeline and what they knew, when they knew it. And where she would say, well, it's under investigation. Sorry, I can't comment. She should have been fired within an hour of that assassination attempt happening,
Yeah.
because that was just atrocious that was allowed to happen. The site that they chose to have this should never have been allowed. And that could have played into part of this. I don't know. And I don't know if you heard today, the Secret Service is now saying, Trump, you shouldn't hold any more outdoor rallies. They should all be indoor. Well, that limits him to where
Sure.
he could go.
Well, that's not an accident, right? Because you look at this.
No,
Did you
but
see
he
Kamala
doesn't have
Harris?
to do that.
Yeah.
You just be
Right.
careful about where you're going,
Mhm.
and making sure that
Mhm.
everything is as it should be.
Well, see,
That
that's
there's
pretty.
no
That's
taller buildings around it.
mhm.
There's
Mhm.
parameters to look at. He has
Oh,
held
yeah.
many rallies all safely.
And see, that's disingenuous because if you look at the size of the rallies he's having, what they want to do is they don't want the public to see just how popular he is. He's having his rallies in football stadiums. Harris has her rally in a high school gym. Did you see that? By
Yes.
the way, in a high school gym, 2,000 people are there. They're trying to make it look like it was like this gigantic crowd. It was a high school gym. What do you get? A
I
thousand
don't
people?
even, it wasn't the picture I saw, it wasn't even full.
Right, right. Yeah. So they're so disingenuous, obvious. So
Very.
they'd love to have Trump not be outside with crowds, right?
Of course. Of course.
Because
You
the
know?
comparison is too obvious. How can you have energy around Kamala Harris? I mean, let's face it, what more obvious DEI hire can there be?
Right. Well, you know what? And that's exactly what Biden called her when he chose her as vice president. He actually said that and we're starting off, he was talking about DEI, the importance of having diversity, equity, and inclusion in our nation's politics. And he says, and it's starting right at the top with our vice president. Those are his words.
Wow. And have you seen the latest thing on wordplay that the left is trying to do? So now they're trying to say that if you use the word DEI, that's just another way of what are that? It's a dog whistle for the N word.
Oh,
So this
yeah.
is another way of shutting down conservatives. Had you heard that? That's
No, I
the
hadn't heard that. I don't buy it either. I don't buy it. I
no
don't bite it and I don't buy it.
right. I mean, they're the ones who came up with the whole DEI thing, right?
They did. They
And
did. And so we're just got to get back to the whole merit based situation. And the state police. So I do have a story talking about this the assassination attempt. And in fact, I saw that where did I see it? They said our government was helped trying to assassinate Trump. I want to say I thought it was Biden that said that. But don't quote me on it. But I think I remember hearing something about that. So the state police had warned the Secret Service about the Trump shooting suspect. Trump
mhm.
has come out publicly and said he himself was never warned. And in this hearing that I was watching on C-SPAN, because I like watching things as much as I can, as much as my time will allow,
Mhm.
firsthand. I'm not getting it digested from some other news source. Oh, there's your
Mhm.
kitty kitty.
This
Getting,
cat, this cat's an attention seeker. I'm telling you.
we
First, he's
like it.
beating at the door. I had to let him in, and now he's jumping up on the chair. He wants to be part of the action. That's all.
And and so the state police had notified Secret Service. And this is where the Secret Service did not pull Trump. All they had to do was pause him from going out on stage, clear the danger that they had there, and and then just go on with the deal. Right? They knew the person. There was a person of interest on the grounds, and in fact, they left a the Pennsylvania police commissioner says that officers left their post to look for Trump. Well, there or for the Trump assassin, and actually, he said this in there's one of the buildings is 2 stories,
Mhm.
and in fact in this article I'm looking, it's from the Epic Times. I'm looking at this picture, not realizing that where the shooter was a 1-story building,
Mhm.
and right behind him was a 2-story building. And so there were officers in that 2-story building right behind him,
Mhm.
essentially.
Wow.
And they were looking. Um, they saw him on the ground. They hadn't seen him up on the roof at this point when
Mhm.
they left to go find him. Had they stayed right in that building, and when he climbed on the roof, they could
Mhm.
have just shot him right out the dang window. They would have been closer than the snipers were. Right there. I
Yeah.
mean, that was like Keystone Cops.
Well, that's the thing about it, though. And here's the if it was let's say it was a conspiracy attempt to assassinate Trump. Is it possible they could be that clumsy? I mean, you would think you'd be slicker than that. I don't know. I mean, it's just there's too many people looking at it. Too much fumbling around.
Well,
Who knows?
by having a lot of fumbling around, so
Hmm.
they knew that the Pennsylvania police, they were only to be in the parking lot. They
Hmm.
were not to be guarding the outside perimeter. And the Secret Service is very smart, and they they knew well, I'm sure, I haven't seen anybody say it, but they knew that area was a hot spot. How
Hmm.
could you not, when that is your sole job, is
Yeah.
to guard people, right? Your
Yeah.
sole job. You're not a part of our military that's getting shipped somewhere else. You are there's a group of people in our Secret Service, and they are assigned to protect a person, period, or
Hmm.
people.
But on the other hand, you look at I don't know what the backgrounds are of the people, the agents actually on the ground. Clearly, you can look at some of them. You got to scratch your head. But the head, I can't remember her name. She came from she was the head of store security at like Frito Lay. Are you kidding me?
Oh, really? I didn't know
That-
that.
That's her background. Frito Lay. She's guarding potato chips. It's like unbelievable. I mean,
Was
this is
that
what
our head of our Secret Service?
the head of the Secret Service. I can't think of her name, but she
Keto?
came directly
That
from Frito
Cheetle?
Lay.
Cheetle, the one who
Cheeto.
just.
Yep. Yep. So
Oh my gosh, I
you would
had
think
no idea. Guarding potato
yeah,
chips. Well, no
you
wonder.
you would think for something like that, you're coming from the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines,
Special forces?
Special Forces, Green Berets, Rangers. I mean, something like that. What do you call it? Police, maybe specialists within police forces in different cities. This is not something you just come and do from
No,
someplace else, like a
no,
retail establishment. It just is
no.
mind numbing. If that's not DEI, and she herself said she gave speeches about how proud she was of DEI hires, and her goal was to have at least 30% women in the Secret Service by X date. That's like insane. Um,
Yeah.
I, unless you can find that percentage of women who are all like 6'5" and buffed. There's
Exactly. They have to be Amazon women. They've got to
yeah,
be they have to be. I mean, or like I've said before, if whatever the target is that you are guarding, you need to be that size or larger. And
I mean,
so if your target is only 5'2", then you have some 5'6" women around, ain't no
yeah,
big deal, right?
yeah, but they better be able to carry them.
That's correct. That's where I'm at. Me, I just my husband is a retired fireman, and this
Mhm,
is nothing against women in the fire department, but I'll tell you what, when
mhm.
the stuff hits the fan, when the stuff hits the fan, I want the biggest, baddest, strongest person coming and saving me.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's what it comes down to is this, and the left has such a hard time making this distinction. We're different, right? That
We
doesn't
are.
mean better or worse. We're
No,
different, and
exactly.
women in the military doing things that don't involve the physicality piece, like drone strikes, computer technology, digital. I mean, all of that, fantastic, right? You
Yep.
know, but roles where you're in direct combat, that's just and this is the perfect example of it. It's just insane. Um,
Yeah, it is. It is. It takes a different, like, go and be in the submarines, and
right.
there's other avenues of doing what you're capable of doing, and it isn't doesn't. I agree with you completely, Don. You know, you and I might learn the very same set of skills, but given how to apply those skills under the same circumstance,
Mhm.
I might outperform you on a particular skill set, but on another one, you would outperform me. This is just simple division of what capabilities are um, between the sexes.
And it's the same thing they apply to everything. It's this groupism they have. They're
Yeah.
so hung up on separating us. Looking at an individual instead of judging them. And this goes back to the content of character and all that same thing. If you're Asian, you have to think this way. If you're black, you think this way. If you're white, you think this way, and so on and so forth. And it's the elimination of individuality. That's what it is.
Well, I think some of this DEI hire is starting to wane, and it's backfiring, a bit. And we have to get back to merit based, because it was this latest kafah that happened with CrowdStrike. Was that because of a DEI hire? I wonder. We will never know.
Right,
You
right.
know,
Hmm.
because those are pencil pushers. These are the computer people.
Hmm.
It doesn't take a set of physical strength to
Hmm.
do that. It takes mental strength, but
Hmm.
not physical strength.
Right.
And so
Yeah, it's like
I don't know.
you just want to hire the best person you can for whatever it is that you need done. At the end
Yeah,
of the day, if you hire an accountant, you just want the accountant to do a great job. You don't care what color they are, what gender they are, or
no,
any of that stuff, what their sexual preferences. I just want to know I'm not going to get the IRS on my rear end afterwards, right? That,
that's a fact. That's a fact.
yeah,
You just
I mean,
want him to do the job and do it honestly,
right, yeah,
and go back to it's merit based,
yeah.
and it's merit based. What are your qualifications? And sorry, guarding Frito Lay or the potato chips, and now coming to be the over security over that. Let's see that. You know what, Don? Then she was guarding that doggone recipe. I figured it
I
out.
tell you, it's just maybe the security at KFC to guard his secret spices. Maybe that would have been a better. There's no
You know,
physicality necessary for that. I don't
and
think.
Bobby brings up a point. She should be charged with murder for the death of the gentleman. Because while we are lighthearted,
Mhm.
thank God President Trump survived. There
Mhm.
are still two people in the hospital, and one lost his life because of the egregious errors that happened that day. by the
Hmm.
Keystone Cops. And I'm saying that all the way around. Every security force that was there was at fault for
Hmm.
not stopping this. You know, the citizens were pointing and yelling and videoing for 2 minutes.
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
in those two, that's a long time, 2 minutes. And that's why Trump should have been able to go on to the stage
mhm. Yeah, and you're
until
absolutely right. We
that was
forget that, yeah,
neutralized.
it's easy to forget that there was a man who, a dad, a husband who lost
Yeah.
his life
Yeah.
because of the ineptness of of that service agency. And then you wonder, where else in the population is this manifesting itself in similar ways? I mean, I see lots of situations where they have women in police roles trying to doing physical things with these big guys to try and take down. I mean,
Yeah.
I just don't know. I mean, it's just,
You know,
yeah, we're putting them at risk.
well, you are. And I'll speak since I mentioned my husband was a firefighter,
Hmm.
but you know, he also had paramedics that worked in his station that he was
Hmm.
over. And there was one particular woman, and it was the first woman that ever came that he ever worked with in a house.
Hmm.
And she was a paramedic. And he says, I'll tell you, she was fabulous as a paramedic.
Hmm.
Physically, today, she's wrecked
Hmm.
because even though she's, 5'10"
Hmm.
and worked out and was super super strong and physical, today her body's wrecked
Hmm.
because of that job. But emotionally and mentally, what she was able to accomplish, because um, he saw the difference of the woman paramedic versus the male paramedic, and how the people, so if a man is hurt, he's going to be all macho in front of her,
Hmm.
and women also would not cry and show their throwing their antics in front of another woman. Interesting psychology that he witnessed with the men difference of men and women as paramedics.
Hmm.
And I'm not saying women don't have a role, but by golly.
Yeah.
And now today, the gurneys that paramedics have,
Hmm.
they've got, unless you have to physically carry somebody up and down stairs,
Hmm.
and to extract them from a medical emergency, they've got gurneys today that do so much, especially in the big cities, that
Hmm.
you don't have to manhandle so much the a
Yeah.
person's a person's body,
Yeah. 'Cause
because
police officers
people do
figure,
get hurt of all sexes, doesn't matter.
yeah, I mean, police officers are carrying what, 30 pounds of weight around their waist, just that, with all the equipment they're carrying. I mean, I think the percentage of police officers with bad backs, for example, I saw this somewhere, is like way out of proportion to the rest of the population. Think what you're doing. You're sitting all day long, getting in and out of cars, which is horrible on the back. So unless you're really working out, chances are your back is going to be a wreck at some point in time. And then and then you explode into action maybe once a day where you got to jump up and run without stretching or anything and chase somebody down. And in this case, it could be somebody who's a lot bigger and stronger than you. It's you know, it's something that it ought to be thoughtful. Let's put it that way, rather than just
Yeah.
filling a slot because we got to meet a certain gender requirement. That's something that just they need to be thoughtful about, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, hey, I wanted to talk a little bit about the Oregon wildfires. I'm going to change
Mm,
the subject if you don't mind,
yes.
Don.
Absolutely.
And right now, Oregon is currently the top wildfire priority in the United States. And with 38 large this is today that has been updated, a story out of Coin, and has been updated today, this afternoon. And it says 38 large uncontained wildfires actively burning on roughly 840,000 acres of land in Oregon and Washington. And
Wow.
roughly 91.5% of those acres are located in Oregon, making the state the top firefighting concern in the region and the country. And I know people that are over in Baker County that are just the fire has been around their ranch 3 times, as she has posted on social media. And I was talking with the chair, a guy I know in Malheur County yesterday, and he was coughing, and I go, "Hey, are you okay?" He goes, "It's just the smoke." He goes, "The
Wow.
whole northern part of Malheur County, it's all on fire, and it is just a lot of smoke." And so on social media today, I was trying to get it where I could post this,
Hmm.
but I wasn't able to. Well, let me talk also. The Durkee fire
Hmm.
is, and so for people east from Pendleton, I-84 east from Pendleton east is shut down. There is a used to be, it was closed between Ontario and Baker City. And
Hmm.
now it is from Pendleton, and it's because of the fires of what's going on, and they're and growing. And the Durkee fire in Eastern Oregon, as of this morning, is at almost 245,000 acres, and it
Wow.
continues to grow
Hmm.
as intense weather is expected to hit the area. And so, what's happening is it's so large, it is creating its own weather. And so this afternoon, the area is under red flag warning, hurricane
Hmm.
force winds, flash flood warnings. And the National Weather Service expects extreme thunderstorms and lightning in the area. So we're not getting the relief at all. And yesterday, we had blue skies here at my
Hmm.
house. It was nice to have a change of not being smoky. And while I
Hmm.
can't smell the smoke, there's a lot of smoke in the air. I can't see the sun. It's very smoky,
That
and
is amazing.
it is. There's just so much. There's low elevation fuels, the
Hmm.
grasses, the sagebrush, all the trees below 6,000 feet are just like ready to burn.
So
And
given the fires we've had over the last 5 years, I mean, maybe I'm just missing it. I thought that would have, burned some of that down, but that's not the case, huh?
this is a different area.
Okay.
This is a different area.
Wow.
And yeah, and there was two fires that actually grew into one,
Hmm.
and they burned together. And so today I had, let me see if I can, there was a Facebook post that somebody had posted, and I took a screenshot of it, and I had
Hmm.
my husband call, because it says help our heroes, and it's for Eastern Oregon.
Hmm.
And they said that this company, who has a delivery service company, but they also do car wrap advertising. They said
Hmm.
they've teamed up with the Forest Service in La Grande to distribute donations received to the firefighters on the front lines. And if you would like to donate items, let them know. I can't post this for some reason; it won't let me, because I tried before our program started, and they are liking. They need individual jerky packs, liquid IV packs. That's
Hmm.
like a powdered Gatorade
Yeah.
or similar, granola bars that don't melt.
Hmm.
Trail mix, preferably without chocolate. You can't get trail mix without chocolate.
Yeah. Yeah.
They just, I don't think so. And anyway, chapstick, socks, saline eye drops, and individual wet wipes,
Hmm.
and you can drop them off in La Grande. Well, right now, the highway between my home and La
Hmm.
Grande, 84 is one of them, and it's
Uh-huh.
cut off. And then it's only for local traffic. And then there's another highway, 204, and they are asking that it's only local traffic, because
Yeah.
fire crews have to also get around. Emergency vehicles have to get around as best they
So
can. And
so you
so
can't.
they had a
Yeah.
phone number to call.
Hmm.
And so I asked my husband, I said, call them up, this cat,
Hmm.
and see, I had a bunch of stuff, and I said, so Charlie, I pulled out all this stuff, and let's get it to them. So they're going to come pick it up from us tomorrow morning, to
Okay.
especially that liquid IV. My husband used to
Right.
drink it, and I had
Hmm.
17 bags of that
Uh-huh.
stuff. He
Wow.
doesn't drink that anymore. He makes up his own recipe of electrolytes that doesn't have any sugar in it.
Hmm.
I'm just happy that we're able to pass that on and a few other things,
Yeah.
to them, because there's people from Idaho, there's people from other areas coming to
Hmm.
help fight these fires, and we need to help them stay hydrated. And because we're having with such high temp, thankfully this weekend the
Hmm.
temperatures are going to cool down.
Yeah.
But with these high temperatures, and imagining you're wearing, the suits you're wearing and stuff,
Hmm.
it's hot.
Well,
It's hot.
it must be
And
miserable.
yeah,
Yeah. So you can't. So if you're trying to drive to Boise, you can't get to Boise right now. Then.
not on I-84, you can't. Not
Wow.
on I-84. And
Hmm.
so there is just a lot of fires happening around, and it's a darn big deal. And people
Hmm.
think that, well, I'm like you're having clear skies. Well, the whole
Hmm.
eastern side of Oregon is
Uh-huh.
on fire, and into Idaho, and also southeast Washington,
Now,
as well.
yeah. Now I hate to, and maybe I'm just being too hard on the government, but is this one of these government caused things too, in terms of land management?
Oh, yeah, absolutely, 100%. And part of it is, well, let's see, we only have so many resources. We don't have the budget. Well, you know what? They have emergency budgets. They have emergency ways of spending
Hmm.
money and getting people, because it's not the entire United States that's burning, for crying out loud.
Hmm.
And they've brought in a bunch of planes. We've had fires. It was last weekend, Saturday, there was 11 fires in Umatilla County,
Yeah,
you know.
I'm just sitting here thinking to myself that I have no background on this stuff, by the way. But generally speaking, in any area of endeavor, there are experts who specialize in this stuff, and they would look at that and say, "This is a high risk place. What can we do?" And these people were probably talking about it 5, 6, 7 years ago and got ignored. Is that what's happened here?
Well, I don't know. That definitely sounds like Maui. Okay. Maui was absolutely high risk, but
Yeah.
this was, some of it is arson, Dawn, and
Okay.
some of it is lightning. We had dry
Mhm.
lightning strikes, and
Right.
that's what these thunderstorms that are coming, we're
Hmm.
going to have more lightning
Yeah.
strikes. And so
Hmm.
we're just having that, you can't control,
Hmm. Right.
whatsoever. And it's
Yeah.
and some pictures that I saw of a gal I know, their ranch,
Hmm.
I still see green trees standing, but the earth is scorched. All the little grasses, the dry grasses,
Uh-huh.
are gone, and they've lost fences, they've lost barns, they've lost
Hmm.
some outbuildings, um, and then they've got cattle that they've got to feed. Well, where the
Hmm.
hell's the feed? Their pastures are, and
Sure.
their grazing lands are
Right.
toast.
Yeah.
So if it's not irrigated, it's toast. If it's irrigated, then we
Hmm.
don't we don't have to worry about that. So, and we
Hmm.
still have, as Lori says, and August is typically our hot month.
Right. No, yeah, we even
Yeah,
got to the worst month yet.
no, right? So, and this Durkee fire it's a bad deal, but what I attribute it to is not enough resources thrown at it
Hmm.
early enough.
Hmm.
Several years ago, we had Kate Brown that let a fire over on the west side,
Hmm.
let a fire burn for 3 or 5 days. Then there came a bunch of high winds, and she says,
Hmm.
"Well, we better put it out." And that became one of the largest fires. And that was just a few years
Right.
ago.
Hmm.
And because of not putting it out and getting on it, on top of it. And you have to get on top of it. So
Hmm.
is it not enough resources, or like Bobby says, where's the super tanker? That I don't know.
Yeah.
When
That's
I
it.
went to
Right.
a funeral service last Saturday for a dear friend, and saw two helicopters in the air.
Hmm.
One that looked like it had a snorkel, and the other one that had some water bucket hanging from it,
Hmm.
and they were off fighting fires. And I saw two of them. There's some fires that are over in Ukiah, here in Umatilla County
Hmm.
still that are going on. So we have a lot going on over here with the fires. So pray
Hmm.
for the firemen, the
Sure.
firefighters, I
Hmm.
should say. And
Well, I tell you too, I would wonder. I mean, hey, how much political power does the eastern part of the state hold? I mean, I'm going to just guess. Let's face it, the powers. If it's the Willamette Valley, does that stuff happen? You know, I hate to say it, but you probably have a certain percentage of it is that too.
yeah, we've had some, we don't have the population, but we have an economic engine over here. This is
Mhm.
where produce is grown. This is where agriculture is. And it's billions of dollars of wheat is
Mhm.
grown. And in fact, speaking of wheat, the price of wheat is in the tank. Our farmers are hurting.
Mhm.
Our
Wow.
farmers are hurting. I was looking at something the other day and I had no idea. I
Mhm.
just thought, oh, good, they're getting their crop in. Well, heck, it's not
Mhm.
hardly worth what they're having to pay to
Huh.
get the crop in, being
Uh-huh.
fuel, and fertilizers and, weed control and all
Mhm.
and storage.
See, I was
It's a
completely
shame.
unaware. I was completely unaware of that. The price of wheat is down. Huh.
Yes.
Because it seems like this administration has pretty much made sure the price of everything else is high.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. No, we're not doing as well as people might think in so many more areas. So we're
Mhm.
going to have uh this weather system come through and it's just not going to get good. I
Mhm.
just wanted to finish on that part and it's not a good deal.
Yeah.
Not a good deal.
Right. Yeah.
So, let's see. Now, today, did anybody see that? So here's another story. It says Eastern Oregon fire to see lightning and hurricane force winds.
Mhm.
No, I guess that's the same one I talked about just a minute ago. Sorry about
Yeah.
that. It's it's a bad. It's a bad. Um, so tonight there was speculation that Biden actually spoke to the nation tonight from the Oval Office.
Did
And
you see
there
it?
had been
Mhm.
some speculation that he might step down as president. Some people were speculating that. No, that's
I
not what.
don't see that. Yeah. I think
No,
the ego is too. That's not going to happen. Yeah.
no, I don't know. That might affect his retirement plan. I have no idea.
Nope. I think he's playing this out.
Yes, and but I saw a headline that said Obama was pissed, and he's not endorsed. The Obamas have not endorsed Kamala Harris yet. I don't know if that's true, but
Yeah,
you
I've
know,
not seen anything where he said that. So I think that's. But here's what I think. Okay, this is just. I'll just. Here's my thinking. I could be wrong. Think about this for a minute. So there was no because you got to think like the power brokers and the Democratic Party think. The only reason that Biden went out on the stage in the first place and got exposed, they'd have kept him in the basement. But the polling was indicating there's no way this guy's going to win. We have to get him out of there. They could not just kick Kamala to the curb because she's a DEI hire. So they had to put her out there and give her a shot. They still got a month before their convention to see how she polls. If she polls badly, I think Obama's holding Michelle in his hip pocket. Now that who knows? They could still kick her to the curb and then put the other one up. Now a lot of people will say, "What about all these rules?" Remember, we're talking Democrats. They don't care about rules. If there's anything we've learned in the last 8 years, they don't give a whit about any. They have zero principles. They'll find a way around those rules, and they select the person This is not, they don't have primaries like they used to do in the old days. They select the person. And now, I don't know if Michelle wants to do it or not. She may have no choice. But if she polls really badly in the next month, that's going to be really interesting. Because not just Michelle, there's a bunch of other people who might want a shot at that. So I'll stop there and let you opine there, Sonny.
Well, I'll tell you where it's going to be. Get the popcorn. We're going to be in for an interesting show because, as Don just said, we have a month before, or less than a month before the Democrat convention. And right now, the Democrats are trying to change the convention rules so that they can go to have an open primary and take some, nominations from the floor or something. So, and I saw that the astronaut Kelly might be one to be a VP pick. Who knows? It is going to. We're going to
Yeah.
have to wait and see.
And he
We're
might be somebody who can actually, a more moderate, like an old school Democrat. Maybe he could pull a few more in. So
Yeah, because she's pretty radical, quite frankly.
oh, she's super radical. When the public gets a taste of her, and they're going to have about 8 weeks, because remember, Americans don't really tune into this stuff anyway until after Labor Day. But that convention is going to be wild. People are going to want to tune into that because the arsonists, the I hate Jews mob. I mean, all of that's going to be going on, right? And I don't know how they're going to keep this from being a redo of 1968. It's going to be wild. But if she's still polling in the toilet by then, you know, uh, anything can happen. And interestingly enough, I just posted this link about the Black Lives Matter, the BLM. So talk about interesting stuff happening. BLM is angry at the Democratic Party for basically hand selecting Kamala. They're saying that it should have been an open process, which of course is what we've been saying. Also, never thought I'd agree with them, but there it is. So they got they got all kind of internecine conflict going on there. And like Sonny said, we just need to get the popcorn and watch because they got a firefight going on.
Yes, and I've got an article I'm going to post here that this is a flashback that Kamala Harris compared ICE, our immigration, to the ICE is our immigration customs enforcement agency to the Ku Klux Klan. And she suggested earlier that this was in 2018 that she suggested that the entire agency should be abolished and started again from scratch. And if you recall, when she was running for president against Biden, she polled like a zero. She polled at zero. She didn't have any support. And Biden actually picked the bottom of the Democrat barrel of presidential candidates to be the DEI hire 100%. Because, he said, that my VP pick will be black. And the funny part is, funny, not funny, is she's not black. She is of Indian descent from Jamaica. And being from Jamaica doesn't make you black.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, it's going to be real interesting because here's the thing. If you just step back from this, just sit back and you ask yourself, looking at how people, the demographics they're trying to get and all that sort of thing. Okay. The heart, she's, first of all, she's a pro-abortion to the max person too. She's really radical on that. So she's not helping the Democratic Party with that because they already got that vote. So the super crazy liberal woman vote, she's got that anyway. In terms of the male vote, I think the male vote is something like is going 65 or 70% Trump right now. You take one look at those. Is she going to peel off any of them? I don't think so. I mean, you look at her, there's nothing appealing in that for them. So I don't see where she really benefits them, just stepping back and looking at it from that perspective.
No, she doesn't. Especially Biden appointed her the border czar. And now the mainstream media is going, oh no, she was never the border czar. Oh yes, she was.
They lied.
She's the one who's, remember there was an interview on television, I don't remember who with, and the
Mhm.
guy says, you are the border czar and you've never been to the border.
Yeah.
And she says, I've been all over the place.
Mhm.
And he says, yes, but you've never been to the border. Well, I'll get there,
Well,
you know?
she's been to the Washington D.C. Virginia border. You got to be specific about which border we're talking about here, right?
Yeah,
But
exactly. And the evidence is all out there. Like Lori says, find the videos because evidence is out there. But right now the media is suddenly they're trying to as you will say, whitewash her and sterilize and go, no, don't believe your lion ears. We never said that. Don't believe your lion eyes. You never saw that video. We never called her the border czar, and she's been doing just fine. No,
and
no,
she
she hasn't.
covered the most gigantic lie ever about
Yes,
Biden's mental health. She knew
yes,
they had to know. I mean, 48 hours one day, 24 hours, he's sharp as a tack. The next day, he's quitting because he's not there. And everybody can see it with their own eyes. The believability of these people, for anyone who's thoughtful, those people, I don't see how they get them because the lie is so obvious now. And like you said before, and then you just look at the policies. She owns the Biden administration's policy failures, and all you
yeah.
have to do is you look at the inflation, you look at the border. These are two things you can bring all the stats you want. People can see and feel that with their own eyes and ears. They know that interest rates, crime, these things are like obvious. And then next level, you look at international affairs. It's been a disaster. I can't remember another time in my lifetime where someone's botched foreign policy this bad. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
I'm glad Jimmy Carter is alive because now he can, when he dies, he'll know he was not the worst president in the last 40 years. Because this
You
was
got that
horrible.
right. I'll tell Trump said a very good quote today, something to, I'm paraphrasing. I don't have it in front of me, so I can't read it exactly. But he said, today Kamala boycotted Netanyahu at the House. There was a joint House meeting, right?
Yeah.
She boycotted that, and he said, and and a president has to be willing to sit down with both sides if you want peace.
Mhm,
That speaks volumes because the Democrats don't want peace.
mhm.
Here
Uh,
she goes and stands behind. If it had been Zelensky there, she would have been there
right,
because there's
right.
pictures of her standing there. Because as the vice president, you would be there, right? You're the person who's going to break the tie,
Mhm,
and at the House, and so in Congress. But today, so she was there with Zelensky, and today she boycotted it. She's too high and mighty and thinks it doesn't matter. Well, I'll tell you, it speaks volumes
mhm,
to people like you and me, to many Americans that she did that, but
mhm.
also internationally.
Well, what a slap in the face to Israel and to the the entire constituency,
Yeah.
particularly the Jewish constituency, who they're a small percentage of the Democratic Party in terms of voting, but they hold a tremendous amount of resources. And why in the world would they continue to keep supporting that party? Here's one more reason for them to stop doing it. As terrible as it seems, I'm glad she did it. At least she's showing us what she's really about. It's
Well, she
undeniable.
is. She is. And, you know, it's get the popcorn. It's
Yeah.
gonna be a show. That's all I can say. And I will say, if you have a chance to watch a rerun on C-SPAN of Netanyahu's speech today, it was really good. I watched it with my coffee this morning. I actually slept in, which I don't do very often, and sat down and had coffee and watched that before I got up and got busy with the rest of my day. So,
I've always enjoyed listening to him speak.
me
Um,
too.
he's one of those leaders. And you think about it's the one democracy in that region that's functional. And this is how the Democratic Party wants to treat them.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know what else. They've been amazing in their restraint, actually, given what was perpetrated
Yes.
on them last
Yes.
October. It's incredible that they've been this restrained. They've done everything they possibly could to not kill civilians. But when your enemy's hiding amongst them, which is what they do because they don't care about the lives of those people, um, it's impossible to not hit someone. It's just an impossible situation.
Well, it is. And then when you have Hamas go and put their supporters and the in with innocent people. I mean, look, they had tunnels under the hospital, you
Sure.
know,
Yeah.
and they do that at schools and hospitals. You know that, oh, they can't, if they bomb this, then innocents will get killed. Well, they went in and they've cleaned house, and
Well,
as they
they
should.
figured out how to use Western values against us.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what they do.
So I have a couple of good news stories
Mhm.
here. One is from the Epic Times, and the Federal Appeals Court has ruled the FCC Universal Service Fund is an illegal tax.
Mm,
It is a surcharge that uses billions of dollars to subsidize internet access.
mm,
And so the Federal Appeals Court, it was in a 9-7 split decision issued by the full Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals today. The court sided with a Washington based nonprofit Consumers Research, finding that the USF surcharge is an illegal tax because even though Congress delegated taxing power to the FCC, the agency relied on private companies to set the surcharge, which is a violation of Article 1, Section 1 of the U.S. Constitution.
ah,
So, in the Telecommunications Act of 1996, Congress delegated its taxing power to the FCC.
mhm,
And the FCC then subdelegated the taxing power to a private corporation. And that private corporation, in turn, relied on for profit telecommunication companies to determine how much American citizens would be forced to pay for the universal service tax that appears on cell phone bills.
mhm. Okay.
So it is, there's going to be some changes coming to the to our taxing. I like it that they're
Yeah.
setting, let's get back to following the Constitution and doing it the correct way.
A classic example of the creep of the administrative state, right? And we're
Yes.
going to see that start to crumble down. And we've been talking about these kind of crazy issues that are going on, but underneath,
Yeah.
the conservative side has been piling up massive wins,
Yes.
and those are things that don't matter who's in office, like the Chevron deal, for example. We all know
Yes.
about Roe v.
Yes.
Wade, right? And I heard some more arguing and crying about now I guess the Kamala crowd wants to pass a national legislation that abortion can be had on demand. That's their newest thing, and I say, you know what? Then you should pass a constitutional amendment, which is the way you should have done it in the first place. If you
Right.
can get, if you can have the states vote for that, and you can convince the public to do that, 2/3. I can't remember the exact rules of that, but you got 2/3 of the states, I think it is, right. If you can do that, more power to you. But the reason they didn't do it in the first place was because they couldn't do it. So,
Yes, that's exactly right.
uh,
So another good news story. I've just got two others before we need to go.
mhm.
This is Attorney General candidate Will Lathrop. He is so good. So he's the one who won the Republican nomination for Attorney General. He has netted 70 law enforcement endorsements.
Wow. All right.
Yes. And so this is a story that is out of Oregon Catalyst.
Mhm.
And he says that today, Will Lathrop announced an extensive list of 70 plus law enforcement professionals endorsing his campaign, including 28 elected sheriffs, 5 retired sheriffs, 21 current elected and retired district attorneys,
Mhm.
and many other law enforcement leaders. That's fabulous.
Mhm.
I'm telling you, he's the guy we need at all costs. We have got to elect Will Lathrop as our next attorney general. We've got some serious races that we need to win, and this is one. It will change
Mhm.
our legal landscape in the state of Oregon. It really, really will.
And it's changeable. I mean, the needle is moving.
Yeah,
Obviously, we'd love to have it move faster, but it is moving,
yeah,
and that's a positive thing. It's too bad it took such a giant punch in the gut for that to happen. But at the end of the day, we can talk about principles and strategies and techniques till the cow comes home, but a certain percentage of the population has to be hit over the head with a 2x4
yeah.
before they'll recognize it. And the 2x4 has been delivered.
Yes.
You know, we've had three
And the
years.
last thing, the last thing that I just posted is actually the David Darnell's obituary. If all of you hadn't seen it, and it is from Facebook that his wife Karen posted, and it's beautiful. It's beautifully written, and but I wanted to let you know that his celebration of life will be held on August 17th at 11 a.m. at Church on the Hill in Kaiser, Oregon. And it will also be, there's going to be two, but that one is a celebration of life. And then also on August 24th at 11 a.m. at the Illinois Valley Fire Department in Cave Junction, where they live. And contributions may be made to Stream Savers 501c3 at restoreoregonwaters.org in his memory.
Okay.
And so I just wanted to post that there. We miss David very, very much. And keep Karen in your prayers as she's navigating life without her partner.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I love David. What a great guy. And he's definitely going to be missed. I mean, what more can I say?
Yeah, yeah. David is a great guy, and we
Uh,
miss him. Miss his humor.
yeah,
Miss his humor so much.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Quick wit, humor. He was
Yeah,
a blast to work with. And uh, I didn't know him for a long time. I only got to know him for the last like 2 or 3 years. But wow, what a fun time. I'm really going to miss him.
yeah. Okay, everybody. Thank you very much. Have a great night, and don't forget to share the message. And I'll be back on Friday.
USA. USA.
USA. Fight, fight, fight.
Fight, fight, fight. All right, everybody. Take care now.
Night.
Good night. All right. We're still here, right?
Yep. You
Okay,
gotta
perfect. Yeah.
you gotta finish it.
Oh, I didn't. I thought I finished. That's it.